Today, we're going to discuss the magical Negro.
You know, I find the more garbage in the can, the better it feels to dump it all out.
Start.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. This is Mars. I'm here with my boy Petey. Say
What's
up,
going
Petey.
on? How you doing?
Today we're talking about that hit movie that came and went, according to Petey.
Yes.
The American Society. What is it? The American
Society
of a Magical Negro.
Negroes.
Negroes. My apologies. Listen, this is a movie that's been getting a lot of hate. You know, we took a look at it, and we definitely want to tell you what we think about it and whether or not it was any good.
So tell us about the movie. What was the
before
plot?
before we even start, we're talking about what is it? What is a magical Negro? And the magical Negro
God,
is
we're not even getting into the plot. We got to get into that.
Before we get, so people understand, the magical Negro is a trope, right?
No, the magical Negro is
where you have a black supporting character.
Spike Lee had a movie, and the same time his movie was out, we had Morgan Freeman get the Oscar for
Driving Miss Daisy.
Yes. So Morgan Freeman would be the magical Negro, and the line caught of being what we used to be considered like Mr. Miyagi, the mentor. And see why I say Mr. Miyagi, he's the one who taught him. He also had magic, but at the same time, for black people, we don't want the characters to be in the help position to some white hero. So that Spike Lee did the term magical Negro, and it just caught like a brush fire. So
but if it's because, you know, you see these characters where there are black supporting characters and they're helping the white protagonist in the show, right? And of course, they have like some type of extra, I won't say extraordinary powers.
Like
but,
Mr. Miyagi.
Okay, like they're wise beyond their ways, or they're able to do things,
but they're not doing it for themselves.
Exactly, and of course, they're only there as that character. They're not willing to. They're like you said. You're not there for themselves. So, of course, that's the background behind the American Society of Magical Negroes, but also why a lot of people think that the movie is racist. Right? They're saying that, you know, it's racist, thinking that, you know, you have to have a black character, you know, calm down a white character to prevent them from, you know, exploding and causing all kinds of crazy rage, right?
So you're saying that people say that the American Society of Magical Negroes is racist? That's what
the movie. Some people are saying the movie is racist because of that.
Who's saying it's racist?
Well, there's been several. I think I don't want to name them, but what you have to do is Google it and you'll see what it is. I'm not going to give anybody any free press on that, and so you decide whether or not you enjoy it. But let's get to the movie. What is the movie basically about? It's about a young guy who's aimless in life, and he gets approached by someone who's part of the society. And he says, we think you'll be someone great. We see that you're someone who, whenever he's approached by people, you know, he's very, how can I say, polite.
Let's
say,
not
to cause an issue.
No, let's not say that. Let's say, basically, he's a person with no direction, right? He has no direction. He's an artist, but he hasn't had the direction because he makes this art with kind of yarn, which is not something that's typical. You could take everywhere else to sell to give someone else that they would have in their house, and it was very odd, and it was totally not off the beaten path. So he's not a person that's going to be able to take the spotlight and do something well with it. So obviously, this would be a support type of person. That's what they're trying to hint to you. So they kind of set up that he doesn't have it, but he's still at the same time seen as a black person. He runs into someone and he tries to help this woman, and she's she's drunk, and she immediately turns on him and says, you know, something happened that, you know, he's the reason. And that's when David Allen Greer, who we've seen him.
But I think the key thing is that he's apologetic of when something is happening, right? He tries to avoid problems, particularly.
But he wasn't magical. He was just being helpful.
But I mean, that's what causes Allen Greer to say, the protagonist, well, not the protagonist, the guy who brings him in, Allen Greer, and saying, hey, I think you would be someone who would be helpful because you're trying to reduce the stress of white people, right? Let's call it what it is. Right?
I didn't really see that that's why he picked him, but I can say there's something to what you're saying.
You know, and so
I see it more like he's some more person that's not an alpha or A personality, He's a B, so he'd be more like someone that could help or be a supporting cast. So they're trying, even though he didn't seem like he was going that route, it seemed like they pushed him to that route. But that's only after watching it.
Well,
So,
remember, he saw him, so he's trying to sell his art, and the gallery director is telling, hey, you got to get out there and sell your stuff.
Yes.
And so he goes out to one of the buyers, and instead of telling the buyer, hey, I want you to buy my stuff, the buyer basically is like, hey, hold my drink, thinking he's a waiter, and he's like, okay, he just takes it, and he's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? So I guess the gallery owner is like,
too.
yo, you out of here, because you're not even trying to sell. You can't represent yourself, so therefore, how can I represent what you're selling? Which makes a lot of sense. And I guess that goes into what you're saying. He has like a low self-esteem of himself.
Yes.
Of what he can and can't do.
Or not, he doesn't have, he has a lower self-esteem, but not that portion of it is all in his actions. So that's a good thing about the story, is that this person he did some work and he's not selling the work as is. He's kind of just like, if you like it, like that sort of thing. So it's like, it's unsaid, but he has a low self-esteem and what he did. And any person who's doing something, even if it's odd, in your cell is where your confidence is. And that's what is lacking in this character. So it is kind of, it didn't seem like, because David Allen Greer is a very kind of, like, he seems to be very more direct. So it's kind of hard to be like looking at him and say, David Allen Greer is the same way, but as a person, David Allen Greer played those type of characters, like in Boomerang, where he was kind of secondary. He couldn't really get with Halle Berry, that sort of thing. They said, oh, I know he didn't hit it, that sort of thing, to his face type of deal. So yeah, sorry, but keep going with this. So he gets
recruited,
yeah.
Right, and then he's introduced to this whole society, and the society has the power to, like, I guess, make people change their mind about different things, so that they wouldn't flip out, But again, it's targeted mostly to white people.
Mm-hmm.
He is also, he then goes there and he gets taught the entire history of what they've done to prevent, historical issues and what they have to do in order to do it.
It seems like a big Harry Potter for magical Negroes
Society.
To help, and they're directly in what they're saying. They're saying that these guys, it's because it's a satire. They're saying that these guys are here because
keyword satire.
These guys are here to help keep white people from getting alarmed and then doing some drastic measures. And this is basically a problem that we have in society, where they see someone, we've seen a lot of cases. I think the football player who was injured in a car accident, he came to the person's door and knocked, and the person wouldn't open the door, and then called the police and said someone's trying to break in, and then they came guns blazing. So that's kind of where the idea is with all the shootings and stuff like that, and the false alarms. This is keeping, it's not
the Karens.
The Karens. This is keeping what causes people to, kill people, is like, because at the same time.
Well, they're saying if you have a magical Negro and they are providing help and wisdom to people in their careers and their life, that they'll help to reduce the stress. Therefore, it won't cause any confrontations or issues for brothers and sisters, right? So that's their job, to go about doing it, right? To reduce it. And so they recognize that there are certain people who cause these levels of stress, and so they definitely they send, I guess, I don't know, emissaries or agents or magical Negroes, agents.
With actual magic. So we have, and this is like, Spike Lee coined it, just a cut from the plot again, and then Key and Peele did their joke where the magical Negroes are fighting against each other to help out the person. So they're using that's the first time we actually saw them with magic. So it's kind of that sort of angle that they're trying to, have people.
Wait, what about the Green Mile? Didn't he have magic in the Green Mile?
Well, that wasn't making fun of it. The Green Mile, see, the hard part is they made fun of the Green Mile a lot. This is still straying from the plot, because it was trying to show.
All of the plot. This is not the plot of the show, but this is all discussion of this whole thing, right?
Yeah. So in the Green Mile, we have this magical character right? Because the Green Mile is a story about John Coffey. It's basically once Shawshank hit, someone else wanted a storyline sort of like The Shawshank. Stephen King has a bunch of short stories that aren't horror, right? He's a prolific writer, so somebody probably wanted something like Shawshank Redemption. So they were like, hey, there's this Green Mile about this guy who's in the prison system, about on death row, who has these magical powers. And it seems like he's using it only to help people. So he obviously is the poster boy to them for the magical Negro.
And those of you that haven't seen it, every day that goes by without you seeing it, you do the 70 trillion cells in your body a disservice. What's the name of the movie? The Green Mile. Who saw it? You remember what the black man's name was? John Coffey. And those initials is J what? Go back and see the movie. And then read the New Testament, because that movie is the story of Jesus Christ. They just took a mentally retarded nigga and made him Jesus, and most of y'all didn't even see that, because y'all would expect a Ron Brown type nigga to be made Jesus. Huh? Huh? That white woman laying in the bed, that was Mary Magdalene. Y'all go back and see it. Those of you who didn't understand. Jesus Christ wasn't healing. He was pulling demons out of people, and he cast them into pigs, and the pigs went crazy. In that movie, he pulled them demons out and cast it into that pig cop, and he went crazy. Y'all go back and see that movie again. In the Bible, when Jesus was put on the cross, he was hung between two thieves. That was the two guys that got executed ahead of him. Yeah. And the one thief said, when you go to heaven, will you remember me? That was the Indian brother that said to Tom Hanks, if I repent now, will I be good? Y'all need to go back and y'all need to start breaking code. But y'all can go, y'all like Matrix. Everything I did, like Matrix. Because they showed a black woman and a black man that had the finest mind in the history of the planet. But the white boy was the savior. Huh? I ain't met a black person that didn't like it. How can you like that filth? And here a white man sit and took a mentally retarded nigger and made him Jesus Christ. And because of that, they tried to kill him. And when he said, I leave here and I join my Father in heaven.
And I have to push back on it because what Stephen King and what the directors of the movie were doing is that in a lot of movies, they do a lot of symbolism. So you have Rocky III, you have the story of Pinocchio, you have Star Wars has a little bit of the Wizard of Oz, that sort of thing. And a lot of times, like the Wizard of Oz takes from the Treasury, like the Treasury in, I think, was it in Kansas?
Now let me tell you about the Kansas City Federal Reserve. Have you ever got a tax refund check?
Yeah.
It says Kansas City Federal Reserve.
That was Herman Cain hooking us up.
You get an old age pension check.
That's
Kansas
Herman.
City Federal Reserve.
Okay.
Wait a minute now. There's 12 Federal Reserves.
Okay.
Most folks think the first one was Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Second one, New York. Kansas City was the first Federal Reserve. And matter of fact, if you really break down the Wizard of Oz, that's about the Kansas City Federal Reserve. It's about the wheat farmers.
Wait a second. Really?
Why you think it starts in Kansas? Huh?
Look, I'm learning something.
And it was
every
about
day.
the trains.
Okay.
And when they talked about the wicked, old evil witch, that's the Kansas City Federal Reserve, and the train industry that said to the wheat farmers, we don't deliver nobody else's crop. We buy your crop for what we want to buy, and we'll ship it east to put it on the boat.
There's some sort of treasury thing there. And then in Snow White, the original Snow White, that has some things talking about child labor, right?
That's what that, what was it? The one that had all the little midgets. You know, the little fairy tale.
You know it all. You probably wrote that shit,
Yeah.
man.
No, but that's about child labor.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Snow White.
That's right.
Snow White,
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
That's
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. The
Yes,
seven dwarfs.
that's what
Yeah,
that
that's
was
what
about.
that's about,
Child
yeah.
labor.
All of when you look at the background. Now let me tell you something else. Men in Black. That's about Uncle Tom. Shape shifting.
Really?
Yes.
Did you hear me?
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Did you hear me? That's about shape shifting.
Yes.
And when Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote that, never before, and to this day, when they made it into a play, they had never had the amount of companies around the world doing Uncle Tom's Cabin. And when it went in and the King of Siam looked at it and he said, hey, let's do this as a musical. And it came out, The King and I, as Uncle Tom's Cabin. And last year, 11 Tonys on Broadway was The Book of Mormon.
Okay.
That's Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Wow.
Okay?
So Stephen King is no different from that, and him writing it, the original story, is him translating the story of Jesus into a movie, into a short story, which is now a movie. So all the things, all the help and dying for people's sins, being selfless, that's what John Coffey does.
Right.
So, yes, he's definitely literally a magical Negro. He literally helps white people out. But the story of Jesus is to be selfless. So it's not try to put there to say, hey, we got this black person to help white people, and he's slow and dim-witted. But it's like, if the second coming came, would we know it? Or would we do the same thing to him? Right? Would there be proof, and there would be a sign that this guy shouldn't go to jail? And even in that case, would they, because it's a public execution, there's no way to get around it, would they try to figure a way to get him out? He has to die for, that sort of thing. So it's like, but people look at that as the trademark. Oh, my other book is in. He looks at him as the trademark magical Negro. So he's been used as the big deal magical Negro. So this is how it is.
Right, but I'm saying then it's a character that you also see also in other cultures, and I think this is one thing people who have been saying, hey, this is not right, it's racist, is that what they talk about the Indians, like in the Westerns, where you have the one. So I mean, it's where you have the whole thing where you have the noble savage, I think is the word that some people would say, where you have the Indian who gives sage knowledge about how to do things or get around things, and help the main character, usually white. They're the supporting character, and they'll just supply, and they'll be able to accomplish whatever goal, that they've learned, or they need to do. So this is what we're trying to frame the whole American society of magical Negroes in, and that it's not just something that comes out of just this one particular thing, but it comes out of a bunch of different traditions in the past, right? And stories. We're not saying it's wrong. We're not saying it's wrong, but I think that the issue it comes back is that it's something that keeps happening again and again and again, where some people call that, this is not exactly the coolest thing in the world, right? As opposed to always having a stock character, as opposed to going into the character and learning who it is. Why not the start? But then again, you've also seen it sometimes in other stories too. But it just seems to be pronounced with Black and Asian and Native American characters, right? So, getting back into the movie. Sorry, we had to digress, but we will be digressing here and there. In the movie, we see the character that he has to help this tech executive, right? And so he's placed with this tech executive, and one of the things he's told is that we have to do anything possible to help this tech executive. We can't do anything for ourselves, because that's not anything that we do for ourselves cannot hurt the tech executive, because we want to make sure that they maintain the level of they don't get upset and explode and then cause a catastrophe like they said before. And I think in one of the things that my thought in the movie, that's they could have done a much better job of explaining that, to explain what happens or what goes on, but and why specific people, as opposed to just like any white person that you see, you have to keep everybody calm, cool, and collected. One thing I was hoping for was more of the magic. You know, like there's a whole world
Yeah.
of magical Negroes. So
I thought it
my
was
thing
going to be
was coming.
superheroes. I thought it
Yeah,
was going to be
yeah,
superheroes,
more
not
superhero, not necessarily like this
not
is a satire.
satire.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So he goes to this executive who's really good, and he is helping him and befriends him and likes him. But then he starts meeting up with his, I think it's his boss or fellow worker.
She's above him.
Right.
She's above him. She hands out the orders. That's his so-called work wife, but it's totally platonic, and it's an instance where you introduce another male into the dynamic of the white dude. Either she's Spanish or she's white, or she looks like she
Right,
could be
she's white.
Spanish,
She's white.
and then introduce this black guy into the dynamic, and he's being totally selfless, where you can see there's a connection between him and her.
They actually met in the beginning. They met before.
They meet
at
in
the coffee.
in the beginning, yes.
And
yes.
so what happened? He's
and
out
they
getting
have
coffee,
a connection,
and then
yes.
he, at first she's a little leery of him, but then he makes some jokes, and they start talking. He's like, "I'm gonna buy you coffee," but then he realizes he has to go to this job interview, and to get this particular job where he's helping the tech executive, and that's the same job that she's at.
Yeah.
And so they do have kind of a connection, and it goes throughout the story. And so what happens is that. I think it's out of his own mouth where he tells the executive, like, I think this girl likes you. Probably the reason you guys keep bumping is that you need to, like, develop. And then the guy's like, yeah, you know what? But then the problem is that he likes her. And so he comes up, and his mission to keep this guy calm, cool, and collected goes against his mission about someone who he feels for.
He doesn't know. He is also selfless. He's not feeding towards a connection. He's just asking questions. This is one of the things I had issue with. And I'm sorry to be color-coded in this situation. And at the same time, everyone knows what my complexion is. I didn't like the idea that the light-skinned guy was the only one who figured out that this was not cool.
What wasn't cool?
The magical Negro part. He's the only one who was asking questions. Everyone else was like, yeah, we got to do it. And I was like, no, I don't think the first person to ask the question is the light-skinned dude. The optics don't work for me.
Well, no, remember Greer also at one point, but he still stuck to it. He fell in love with somebody, just like he falls in love with somebody, but he stuck to the rules, right? I mean, it's like Obi-Wan in Clone Wars, where he loves somebody, but he knows I'm a Jedi and I have to stay a Jedi no matter what. Whereas for Anakin is like, screw it, I'm marrying Padme, and I'm having kids with Padme to boot too, and I'm gonna be connected with my mother. And so when he gets upset, he starts killing Tusken Raiders and stuff. So I guess that's where it is. He didn't stick to the rules, right? And so I mean, but one thing when you talk about him being light skinned, one thing that we definitely have to bring up is that he is of mixed race. He's biracial.
Well, that's the other thing. I didn't like that he had to point it out type of deal. It's like, we need to explain how this person that got light skinned to the world. And it's just like, all right, dude, we don't need to know any of that.
Well, you were saying because he was light skinned. I'm not talking about light skinned. I'm talking about explaining his point of view. You know what I'm trying to say? Where he's like, yo, why do you guys have to do this? Is my thought.
Are you saying because he's half white?
He's like, well, I think his mother, I don't know if he said his mother, but he's like, yo, why are we doing this? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
As opposed to, he's light-skinned. Could be light-skinned, dark-skinned, but the question should have been brought up. Like, why the hell are we doing this?
Yeah.
And, and so he goes around the world, and so, I mean, we'll get to that in a second. But overall, he falls in love with the girl, and...
They have a major moment together where they're out together. The friend is being a D-bag.
The tech executive being a D-bag.
The tech guy is being a D-bag, and they had this moment, and then whenever you go against the plan, it disrupts the magical power.
So everybody.
They lose their magical power, and you see them making fun of the Green Mile. The guy tries now in the Green Mile, the John Coffey, who's played by Michael Clark Duncan, grabs someone's groin to heal them because they have like prostate cancer, and so it's very direct in how John Coffey does things. But it's also to be visual. You have this huge black person grabbing someone. It looks like he's going to try to destroy him, and he actually heals him because he has this bad, he obviously has prostate cancer, some sort of inflammation, and he cures him, and that, of course, he's with his wife, and he's having a happy life now because he can go home and have sex with her, but that's also in service to the white person, to the white man, right? So when we get to this, we get into this part where they have this moment. And I think the hard part of this movie is it trying to be satirical when it has a simple story. It's a simple love story, Cyrano, de Bergerac type of deal.
I don't think the Bergerac. She liked him off the bat too.
But at the same time, he's trying to talk into someone's ear, telling him what to do, that sort of thing. He's not totally, like in Cyrano, he's not in the picture. He's just the ugly guy feeding the cool guy. So, and that's kind of, it's kind of questionable too in this situation because, you know, if you have that direct kind of storytelling, that doesn't work for me. But, you know, as you get to here, he has this big moment, and we're gonna finish this plot part of it. Then we got to get into the bigger fights and other things. In this plot part, he has a break. He can't take this anymore. He doesn't want to. The way the guys are acting is causing him to react, and he decides he's gonna go back to knitting, right?
Knitting, Jesus, a knitting.
And he knits himself a sweater.
Horrible knit of a sweater.
He comes into the job. He's not answering the calls because they have this big presentation. It's like a Virgin Airlines type of guy.
Because he's looking for the girl. That's what he's trying to find.
He's trying to find the girl. The other thing is that they also, because this is the thing that probably white people. This is probably why people think is racist. In the movie, the girl gets passed over by the white guy because they say, no, this is going to work better having this guy present the idea. So
no, so what's basically happening is that the as opposed to choosing the young lady, they choose this guy, right? And she is much more talented than him. She's been doing a lot of stuff. She's a hard worker, and so our main character, you know, who's in love with that character, it takes him a little while to recognize it, is that he's like, why is she being overlooked? And he realized that, you know, he's also being overlooked. So the premise of his whole thing is that he goes and has this whole gigantic soliloquy discussion saying, you know, he's late for the presentation. He's dressed badly for the presentation. And he's like, oh, I'm overlooked because of who you are. And, you know, because, you know, they always forget of us and what we do. And the end product is like basically, we're not seen. And so the guy actually says, you know, this big moment for him, he says, okay. He actually recognized and said, oh, you know, like basically he didn't know or whatever, you know. But the point is that everything comes down. And this is where I think I have a problem with the movie at the very end. And I don't know about you, Petey, but it's like, hey, we're doing all this whole thing. But then you're going into the whole premise that you're saying that the whole problem with this whole situation is that, you know, you have a job that you have to do, and you don't do it. You don't do it on several different levels. The level number one.
Oh, see, now you're going to the other thing.
But I'm saying, but hold on, the whole level that, you know, as a masculine, you want to keep everything calm and cool, but you're the one exploding. So they're giving the negative stereotype. Oh, there goes the brother who always explodes. Then you go on this long rant because you want to be heard, you know. And look, I totally get it to a degree, but I don't think that did the service to me to the movie. And this is one of why many of the criticisms happened. I believe. I think the movie. My initial thought was, hey, there's a guy who's going around life who's invisible, right? And then he to make sure people don't get upset, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. And I've seen people do that, you know. I've seen brothers do that, you know. I've seen white people do that. I've seen Asian people, but where their whole thing is like, hey, I don't want to cause no problems, you know. You bump into them, oh, sorry, no, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna go. Oh, you know what? Oh, you know, I don't want to cause a thing. I don't want you to get upset. Here, let me give you this. And so I think, to me, that's what I was like, okay, I see what you're talking about with this particular character. He's not someone who normally stands up for himself. He's not someone who's aggressive. He's not an alpha. He's not going to stand out. And so his thing is he's real sensitive to what others are, particularly white people, right? Because he's black. But I've seen it again with others. And so my thought is like, okay, wow, that's pretty interesting. But this whole last part to me takes away from that, you know. And look, I don't knock anybody. This is the director's point of view. This is where he wants to go. But I thought, man, so much promise. You know, like PD had said, I thought this was going to be more magical in the thing, and that we talking about, this is a whole new universe of brothers, and this is how they do. Look, and of course, this is only me bringing in my point of view, how they got around things. Hey, the Underground Railroad really is It's a magical
Yeah.
network of people going from place to place. I'm just saying, just throwing something out there. How the brothers survived. Jim Crow, they did this. I'm just saying. Discrimination and how they made some people. Martin Luther King. We put some power cuffs on him, so it really made him. This is what I'm trying to say. And so my assumption, and of course, hey, maybe a good idea for us to do a book or story based off that. Redo it, but. That whole magical part was, and again, I'm coming in with my expectations of what I thought it would be. I understood it was a satire, but this guy, and I'm not knocking the actor, just the way it ended to me was just flat. You made this huge speech. If you have to explain every single thing in the movie at the very end, then bro, then what the hell was I watching? Why don't you just call a podcast and call it the very end?
See, now you're going into something I don't like. In the drama, the only way you're going to get the drama is through dialogue. You can't have everything be unsaid. You needed to have a big moment. Now, secondary...
The moment was a very long, big moment.
I don't care.
It was a long... It doesn't have to be that big.
You want the emotion of it, the fact that there's a presentation going and he's talking through it. That's the point of the scene.
Did you feel for that character at that moment? I didn't. I lost with him running around looking for the girl.
No, because you as a business person thought of, hey, you can deal with that separately.
What a wuss. That's the first thing I thought. Man up. Get some cojones. First of all, don't walk outside with that ugly-ass sweater. That's what I'm thinking. Like, yo, what the heck type of dude walks out? His whole art collection
This was his moment to stand up. Him talking, taking all of the time for himself was his moment. Saying whatever the hell he had to say was that moment of having cojones to speak up for himself. That was the moment there.
Well, let me tell you, the minute someone saw that sweater, the first thing you say is like, hold a minute, wait a second. Then you see, once I totally forgot about the whole sweater yarn art thing that he had, which is like the most
I mentioned
thing
at the beginning.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying I totally forgot about that when I went after the movie, because what it ended up being is really a love story. And you know what? I actually loved the way the relationship between those two.
The love story was very
good. The banter and stuff. I did not expect it, but I did. I like it.
Well.
It's very organic. They're talking. He's making jokes. They have hiccups. He stops. He comes back. She's not all there. She's not sure which way he's going. Yeah. And I'm like, that's a real relationship. I kind of like that. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. Real cool. But this whole last end, I got to tell you everything so you know my girlfriend, the girl that I really love, and tell you about me being the magical Negro.
He was trying to be seen. He said he wasn't being... The whole point of the movie is being seen, and now he's being seen.
He was seen by who did he... He didn't get seen by the guy. You had a job to not be seen for this guy.
The job is a racist scene. He was only there to be the black guy, standing with the white guy. That's what he was there for.
We get that.
You didn't get that.
I got that.
So he's pushing against the racist thing of him standing there, and now the person that's supposed to be the representation of diversity is now taking over this and ruining the presentation. That's the point.
That's the point they got messed up on.
No, it didn't get messed up. He did what he was supposed to do.
The presentation was supposed to be, remember, it was supposed to be the
presentation is BS.
But the presentation was supposed to be the best person. It should have been the girl, right?
The girl or him. It shouldn't have been that guy at all.
The guy, he just got there. So how was he going to automatically be the guy doing the presentation? They didn't. But the reason they picked him is because let's have a black guy behind. That was the wrong thing.
The reason why they picked him, because instead of him doing the work, him getting the job there, he probably wouldn't. The thing of it is, they're trying to show you he almost wouldn't have gotten the job if it wasn't in the place of a thing. But now that he's at the thing of it is, the white dude is done totally right. Not as a white guy, but as a person who may not be there, might not be able. He wants everything. That's the way the guy is supposed to be. That's how, even if you're not fully, if you're in front of like if you're in front of like The Rock or who was it, Brad Pitt, that guy is probably going to be secondary. But in his own world, he's the alpha. So when he's getting close to, hey, I'm going to present, I'm happy with it, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to also, I just noticed the thing was sitting up for some reason. But I don't know why it was sitting up. What?
Keep talking.
The thing was also that he also wanted the girl now. So and then he was like, I want both. So that was a thing of having this thing where you have someone who might not be deserving of it. What a guy is supposed to do is say, I want it all, even if they don't get it. And that's the thing. And they subtly did it with the female character, because this is something the struggle happens where you see it's sometimes not about merit. It's about, hey, what's the presentation? We have this white guy. We have this girl who could do it, but we'd rather have the white guy shown as the leader. If we have a demographic where we have the smartest people supposedly in the world are Asian, and in these tech companies, it's still white people, the majority of the people running the show. So you're not having the demographic of the intelligence matching the people in the jobs. They're still looking for that certain thing, the uniform white guy male leader. So it's like they're showing you this dynamic, and that was played well. Going back to your point, the presentation didn't deserve any time because it was all BS. It was just a show for them to have a black guy standing there, and he's not even supposed to say anything. He's just supposed to be the representation. So he should be able to shit on it however he wants to.
I totally disagree on that. I think that if you really wanted to bring up, the whole point is you're trying to teach people like, yo, look at this situation, right? You totally disagree with it, but is the way to go there just to blow everything up?
Yes.
Or is the way to go there is to work it and say, hey, show them or show the audience like, yo, what really is going on? You know what? The person who's really knocking out this thing is the chick over here, and she should be the one who should be standing up, as opposed to it like, yo.
So you're saying they should do? I think that's a viable option to do something, but at the same time, we're not going to change. What he wanted to happen was to be seen, and the girl wasn't going to give you that. That gives you an ending that the audience would like, but that's not letting the black guy be seen.
Right, but the question is, the black guy, his whole job with the American Society of Negro was not to be seen.
So you want him to help out the society?
I'm saying, look, what my point is that you have him doing the situation there, right? I just didn't like if he's going to be the one who wants to sell it, then sell it. But your thing is just you want to complain about everything that's going on. I'd say, yo, I'm coming up here, I'm doing the presentation, and you're going to be the one behind the bean counter or the video and doing the PowerPoint and flipping everything. Mm-hmm. You know, to me this doesn't move the story forward. It just says, oh, there goes the angry black guy again, and that to me takes back this whole thing back. So instead of the angry white guy, which they're supposed to be keeping calm, you get the angry black guy who demands to be seen. And yet, let's remember, what is he actually doing in this? Did he come up with anything there? Not really, right?
No, he did. He helped him with the whole thing.
He helped him with he helped him with the stuff. But I'm saying, but he's not the one like bringing it up to do the job. They're saying the best person here out of all of them was the girl. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, and the she's overlooked simply because they didn't want to give it to the girl. They wanted to give it to the guy. And here's the funny part. The person giving the job to the guy was a woman, because she wanted to go even higher. She's like, I think this is the safe pair of hands. And we're basically criticizing the guy for saying, oh, well, because you're a guy and you just assume things are supposed to go your way, it's wrong. I'm like, wait a second. So he can't be confident in himself to say, hey, this is what I want to do. And unfortunately, yes, it skews, like a great example with markets, like when people are going out for jobs, you know, the guy will go into an office and they'll say, hey, you know, this job, I don't know, let's say the marketing job or whatever, the director of marketing, how much do you want? Here, I want $150,000. And unfortunately, a woman would go in and say, let me get $75,000. And the guy would say, we'll give it to this guy, you know, because, you know, he's holding out. Doesn't mean she is not qualified or the brother is not qualified. It's just that this guy is confident in himself and his ability. And society has developed that because, of course, they're the main people in the society. Not the main people, but I'm just saying the majority in society. And they're brought to understand that, hey, you should be confident, you know. Yeah. But on the other hand, you know, it's like, I feel like they should be confident and proud of who they are. But does that mean you have to feel that negative in yourself? I think society is all messed up in that way. Everybody should be feeling proud of what they are. You have to stand up for what you believe, and they have to stand up for what they believe too. right? But by saying, "Oh, you have to feel less. Oh, I have to be seen, and that's the only way, and I have to make torpedo your product to make sure that it to me doesn't make a lot of sense." You know. So look, I know people are going to comment. You know, this is what I'm saying.
Okay, all right, wait,
Subscribe,
wait.
comment, like.
All right, I went for my thing. You went for your thing.
Okay, odds even, and we'll see who wins.
No.
Say
Okay,
shoot.
all right. With this portion of it, the where it fell apart was that the dynamic of if you don't help white people, then these attacks will happen. And they kind of just moved on, like it just dissolved. And like, did this scene turn into a thing where they called the police and the black guy died? That would have been playing to the dynamic, but they didn't really go that far with it. They just kind of, and that's what I was struggling with when I got to the end, where it's like, if you're gonna do this magical thing and say there's these consequences, then you don't show any consequences, you just lose power. Then I really wish.
Wow, you're saying, let me just get, so if you had, there was an incident between a black guy and the cops, and they were about to shoot, and then that's when the magical girl, chill out, and then cool, then the incident wouldn't have happened. You know,
No.
The George Floyd wouldn't have happened.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm just trying to say. I'm not
Why would
knocking
I
it.
say that?
I'm just saying that.
Why would you go
I'm
there?
saying, wouldn't that be?
I
Isn't
said
that why
the dynamic.
Isn't that why they were supposed to do?
No.
If it's a George Floyd happened.
The thing of it is like this, right? The thing of it is that this is the difference in what they did in the construct of the story they were telling, right? So what I thought should have been the big reveal is that who was trying to get black people to calm down? Saying maybe they didn't have to do that. Maybe Angel Reese didn't have to do that. Maybe Floyd didn't have to do this.
Angel Reese.
The dirty debutante.
When she got that whole thing, that was messed up on Angel Reese.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, she was doing what everybody else was doing.
She paid back, what's her name?
Caitlyn, right.
Caitlyn was doing it to her. She was talking back, so when she lost, they gave it to her. Now they say, oh, look, see, that's what you get. Karma, the Michael Jordan karma. It's like, look,
that was wrong.
Jordan, but it's like she shouldn't get that sort of thing. The problem is like she's saying, she said she was okay with being a villain, now she's crying. But at the same time, they got to call dirty debutantes. They call hot, milk and cookies versus hot sauce. It's like crazy. But in this dynamic, what I think should have happened is that the Magical Negro Society, the people behind it were white people.
What?
I felt that's because in the same time, who is the dynamic of people trying, when they talk in the news and they see black people like T.O. or something like that, they saying, why does he have to be extra? Why can't he be this?
Got it.
Why can't they be presentable? Why do they have to act ghetto or urban or any of those words? So it would have been a big reveal and push the envelope, because I wouldn't want them to go to say, hey, they're going to shoot this guy, because it's not in the presentation that we're doing. You can't turn it into how this guy connects to black people living or dying. But you could say that's what, because I mean, ultimately what people are doing is saying, just be calm, that don't do anything, don't say anything, don't be aggressive. When actually people like the they like, the personality black people. And you see it in young environments, they are the center of attention. But in presentation of like arguing with people, then they say, no, we want you to calm down. When people argue, they flip out. So that's one of the things I just would have wanted to happen. But at the same time, I think people are losing in this, getting caught up in, is this a magical Negro? Is this struggle porn? Is this
what?
Like, black struggle porn, or like that's what the terms they have for drama and tragedy. And now you can't have a black supporting character without it being a
racist.
Not just racist, but just being. The problem is a supporting character has to be, Obi-Wan has to be supporting to Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
He is not going to get the girl or being a chance to get the girl. He is going to be totally selfless. He has no other point. He dies for the other hero so they can keep on. And that's a character. We don't look at him and say magical Negroes, but we say, oh, there's too many magical Negroes. And no, is there too many magical Negroes in movies? Maybe there are. Maybe Driving Miss Daisy, yes. Is Bubba Gump from what's the name? The problem with Bubba Gump is not that he's a magical Negro. The problem is that he's on the back, what's the name? He getting, carried across by Forrest, during the war. Where it's like, oh, now look, black people have to be saved by the white guy. Well, which side is it?
I know, exactly. Which side are you looking at?
Yeah.
You got me totally confused. So you can't say, you can't...
That's the thing. So it's going to be,
so, yeah,
you can't do drama.
Too many people reading into too much stuff. And if everything is done through the prism of race, there's a problem, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the thing I want to watch out for.
And so I get what you're saying there. And we're not blindsided to sometimes some of these tropes and things that do happen, are done specifically because they're like, oh, we need to put a black character. It's like you go into a TV show or whatever, and they always the black character is the mayor or the police commander. You're like, why don't you just make the guy a character in the show? You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Organic. But no, they can't think. They just need to throw somebody else, and we don't really know what to do with this guy. So yeah, it that's also a problem in and of itself. You make the black guy an authority figure, and therefore, oh, we got a black guy in the show. He's an authority figure. When in fact it's just going to be a show like Friends, and there's going to be there's not going to be many black characters at all in there.
Well, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. When I didn't have a problem with Friends not having that many or any black characters, because I'm also not asking white people to give us black characters that I don't like. That'll have these, like, one of my favorite shows was Cheers, right? And a couple times the black character come on there, they just Cliff brought in a fellow mailman to be muscle for him, to help him out, and that was about it. So it's like, oh, we're gonna act like there's no black people in Boston type of deal. And yes, it might have a bar where there's no black people in it, but at the same time, if they're not gonna do a good job of it, I'm fine with them keeping us out of it, because we adding a diversity to people just saying, well, I don't know what to do with this character. It'll be the same thing like Shelley Long. Next thing you know, they're like, let's put this black guy in the floor. Because they had an episode where Shelley Long was in the floor for the whole episode. And I was just like, what's going on here? Like, you're saying you don't like this character at all. You're not writing to her, you're writing her out of the story. So that's the thing. When people want the diversity, like, you got to ask who you're getting it from. Are you getting good characters? Are you getting characters that you dislike? But at the same time, like, what was it? Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Didn't like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah, send the bad note. Send your notices. Not crazy about that.
But you have a black best friend in there that is not a magical Negro.
No, he's not. And he's a
dependent. He's a guy who's a leash, and he takes from what's the name, and that
he does, and that's actually pretty good because you're using him properly as a character in the show.
But you're saying properly as a black person?
No, properly
as
a character.
As a character.
Okay. And a character, everybody has that character in their lives. Yeah. I don't want to say who could be one in my life. You know what I'm trying to say? But there's always those type of characters. And if you say, hey, this is something you are. But I also understand that people write from what they know, right? And unfortunately, in this society still, a lot of people are not, they go to predominantly areas that they live in with their friends and family, and they don't really mix as much as they possibly could, right? You don't have them always going into mixed neighborhoods, or even if they are, they're not always connecting or congregating together. So you have a particular view of what things are. And it doesn't necessarily make you wrong. It just makes like, oh, wow, he just doesn't know. And therefore, we got to put somebody in the show. This is what I know. And let me throw somebody in the show to make sure we cover all the bases. You have the black TV shows right during the 90s where you'll have like the white principal in the whole black class, or, or the white...
You talking about the white shadow?
Where you have the white character when it's an entire black show, right?
Yeah.
Who comes up, either is the comedian, he's the butter joke. So it works there, and both, unfortunately, are blacks, are stereotypes. And I think
Well-
some of those shows have white writers' room, even though they were black shows. They had white writers' room, right?
Well, the white writers' room.
and
the
look, and I
thing-
think we're going way
no,
past.
it's important to think because they're the people behind the stories. Because the thing of it is that the hook of is saying that there's a myth that Red Fox asked for black writers, and then he said, "Where are my Jews?" Like wanted some white writers back, but at the same time you had Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor coming in there, and that only led to Richard Pryor and Paul Mooney writing for other things. So you can't really look at it and say people they had the idea, because the same with Good Times. You have white people saying, yeah, there were ideas were there, but they weren't polished, and this, that, and the other. And it's like looking at, say, Martin, right? Letting the people become the writers that they're going to become, because the dynamic of some of these things are. The hard part is that that's a dynamic where the writers are mostly white, and it's hard to get. We just saw it with Lost. With Lost, they just had a whole big thing where the diverse writers were the ones who were kind of going through these big fights. So yeah, so ultimately, I feel that as a satire, it was pointing out some interesting things. I don't think they had it all right on the nose. But the story, underneath all of that stuff, was a good love story. It's a real love story. It's the kind of stuff that Hollywood does well, but it was wrapped around all of this kind of, magical Negro stuff and this, that, and the other. So that's what kind of took away from it. And at the same time, it only goes to, key in that, hey, we got a black person, older black person helping a white guy, magical Negro. And we won't look at what the story is. We won't be like Dick Gregory talking about the Green Mile, saying that, hey, this is more than just that, So what's your last thoughts?
I mean, overall, did you like the movie?
I said I like what was the
like
core
aspects of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I gotta say, I went in there thinking the whole Harry Potter type of magical Negro thing, and I think I've already explained to you what I thought it possibly would be. And of course, that's just my thought, after watching some of the Key and Peele stuff, and so I got it. But it's just the hardest part for me initially was the character and how he was portrayed, and especially with this whole yarn thing, which just could not get out of my head. At the beginning, I forgot about it, and at the very end, it came back again. I was like, ugh. But the fact of the matter is that, I think it's interesting to watch. I don't think you have to watch it and see for yourself. I didn't think it was as terrible as people make it out to be. I don't think it's as racist as people make it out to be. But I found it's just an interesting.
It's
point
not
of view.
racist.
Yeah,
it's not racist.
You're right, not racist, but I think it has an interesting point of view. To me, it just fell apart at the end, and I thought if they had carried it forward from, the relationship going forward, and they had something else. But look, I don't want to rewrite somebody else's stuff. I'm just telling you what worked for me.
I want to rewrite some else's stuff.
And so, what worked for me, and there were some gems in there, but I just think that the at the end it didn't execute and so that's where I think it fell.
I hear you. I will say about, damn it.
If you can't like the main character, there's a problem.
For me, I think we talked about before. One of the things is it did connect with me in a sense of where I was at kind of in my 20s and the character. And not to say I wasn't necessarily helpful to anyone, but the character himself and his place in the world, I kind of saw myself, and especially when he put on that terrible sweater, that's when the baggy stage was out for me. And I think I went baggy too far over. And it really, even though it's a style, I don't think it necessarily worked for me, even though it was the style of the period. So I think when looking at it, it was just was I here? It was a little too close to home for me. That's why I kind of connected with it, and I connected with the love story. But I think the magical Negro part really didn't work because it was kind of Harry Potter-ish, and the dynamic didn't play itself out. That's why if you play out the dynamic, you don't have a situation where you can have cops come in there and show the dire effects of not doing this. Then you'd have to say, you have to pull the rug out and say, maybe we have white people who are running this thing, forcing black people to help white people.
Well, at the very end, we see that she went to the
Yeah,
Society of
that
Women.
was, I wasn't with that.
Coping women or something like that, which was
wasn't
funny
with
as hell.
that. I wasn't
But,
with that
you know,
at all.
I see your point where, hey, probably really white people were running it, but I also say there should have been a much more dire consequences than just somebody getting upset, you know, so. Look,
He wants the business to be them to go through with the presentation, because he's big business. Do the presentation and then curse him out. That doesn't work for me.
do the presentation, take over the presentation and do
give
the
it to the
presentation.
girl.
Do the job, or you do the presentation, but do the presentation. There's a job to be done. Do the job.
Maybe that's it.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Maybe that's better.
Don't be the angry person. Say,
We went to the angry. See, that's why we got to close. But he's going into the angry black man now.
Yeah, I said that from before. I said it from
He's the
before.
angry black man. That's why he's saying,
"Oh
no, we all told him stereotypes." So we're gonna close out. Thank you guys for listening.
If you want to hear more about this, if you want to hear discuss, please subscribe, comment, give us a thumbs up. Hey, we want to take those hits, dude. Spin a rack.
Out.